Ladies and gentlemen, it finally happened. The No Kings movement, the Democrats' big, shiny, billionaire-funded spectacle just imploded on live television. After weeks of hype, millions of dollars, and nonstop propaganda, what did we get? We got Nancy Pelosi ripping apart a cardboard crown like she's starring in Game of Thrones, while her own voters stood right there in stunned silence asking, wait, what exactly are we protesting again? I know, it's hilarious, guys. This is the biggest political backfire of 2025. The moment that the left's fantasy world collided with reality, even CNN couldn't spin it. Their anchors looked like they had just swaddled lemons as President Trump stepped back up to the mic and said, "It's a joke. I'm not a king. I work my ass off for the American people." Boom. Game over, guys. So overnight, liberal Twitter turned into a battlefield. Activists calling Nancy Pelosi embarrassing, voters demanding refunds, and Trump supporters laughing their heads off, guys. This was supposed to be the Democrats' rally cry, but instead it's their Crown Gate catastrophe, a movement funded by elites, mocked by America, and now disowned by the very people that it was meant to inspire. So today we're going to break it all down, how it unraveled, the revolt, the panic, the exposure, and why this single moment here just torpedoed the Democrats' 2026 strategy before it even started. Hit the like button and subscribe. So one, the immediate aftermath was incredible, folks. I want to start with the morning after, okay? The No Kings rallies were supposed to be this grand moment, the left rising up to save democracy, but instead it looked more like a badly organized cosplay convention that nobody wanted to attend. Empty seats, cardboard signs, confused marchers asking each other, what was the point? Yeah, clips started flooding X and TikTok before the sun was up. One Democrat organizer in New York literally said, "We stood there for 3 hours and changed nothing." Another one posted, and you already know it's bad when even liberal influencers start roasting their own side. Hashtags like "No Kings Fail" and hashtag Pelosi propaganda exploded overnight. The so-called grassroots energy just evaporated. Democrats expected a unifying moment. What they really got was humiliation on camera. And that's the key here, guys. They can't fake enthusiasm anymore. When the mask slips, when the talking points collapse, well, what's left? It's a party with no soul, no momentum, and a base that's tired of pretending. And then, of course, it gets worse because who decides to take center stage? None other than Nancy Pelosi herself, guys. The grand finale of this multi-million-dollar disaster was her moment, standing on stage, tearing apart a cardboard crown in front of flashing cameras, declaring, "America has no kings." But within seconds, it backfired spectacularly. In fact, the image went viral, not just as a symbol of defiance, but more as a symbol of desperation. Meme after meme. Pelosi, the queen of cringe. Even Democrat strategists were calling it a medieval meltdown. The act that was meant to spark fire only sparked laughter, guys. Everyone was laughing at her. Everyone was laughing at the Democratic Party at this point. I mean, conservatives mocked it as theater, moderates winced, and Trump supporters, they didn't even have to lift a finger. Nancy Pelosi handed them the punchline herself. I mean, you could pretty much feel the tension rip from the Democratic ranks. They wanted power and symbolism, but what they really got was parody and jokes. The No Kings message died the moment that its leaders started acting like a jester in her own failed party. Now, here's a little secret, okay? Thousands of people are already calling chapter about Medicare. And when that many people move in the same direction, there's usually a reason for that. This is why I partner with Chapter, folks. They are the team most people trust with their Medicare choices. Simple as that. One of our viewers said, "I called because everyone else was talking about it, and I'm glad I did." Well, so let me ask you, are you just going to stay outside the herd, or are you going to join what most people are already doing? Now, most people are dialing the phone number on the bottom of your screen right there, or they're visiting askchapter.org/Ron. That phone number again is 909-563-8279. All right, so while Democrats were tripping over their own slogans, President Trump didn't even break a sweat. Standing outside the White House, he faced reporters and said it plain as day. "It's a joke. I'm not a king. I work my ass off for this country." That line right there, it hit like a thunderclap because while Nancy Pelosi was ripping cardboard, Trump was rebuilding credibility. It was the perfect contrast, authenticity versus theater. He really sounded like a worker that was talking to other workers, right? Not a politician pandering for applause. In one sentence, he flipped their entire narrative. Instead of Trump the tyrant, America saw Trump the fighter, the man who works for the people, not for the rules over them, all right? Now, then came the media. They froze. CNN anchors couldn't even respond. MSNBC, they tried to pivot, but the damage was already done. Democrats handed Trump the perfect setup, and he pretty much spiked it straight through the floor. I mean, you could feel it across social media. People saying, he's right. He's not a king. He's just doing his job. Game over. So here's where it gets messy, okay? Because the meltdown didn't end with Nancy Pelosi. The civil war inside the Democratic Party, it went nuclear online. Progressives started attacking each other. They started attacking leadership for wasting millions of dollars on cosplay activism. Meanwhile, moderates fired back, calling the far left out of touch with real voters. Hashtag Crowngate started trending, then hashtag Pelosi fail, then hashtag no king collapse. It was chaos, guys. You had activists demanding accountability, donors asking where their money went, and of course you had strategists publicly turning on each other. This was supposed to be unity, but instead it looked more like an open divorce. And so while they were fighting amongst themselves, Trump's approval jumped another 2 points in the latest poll. The optics really couldn't be worse. The president of the United States of America is laughing off the drama. Meanwhile, Democrats are tearing each other apart in real time. You could almost hear the panic from the DNC headquarters. Their base wasn't rallying. It was revolting. And the No Kings message, it wasn't inspiring anyone. In fact, it was just reminding Americans how disconnected the left had become from reality. And just when you thought it couldn't get any uglier, the receipts came out. Conservative watchdogs started connecting the dots, and what they found made the No Kings disaster even worse. Reports reveal nearly $300 million in funding funneled through shell packs, community partners, and activist groups tied to the usual suspects, Soros foundations, Rockefeller networks, and far-left NGOs. So this grassroots uprising that Democrats swore was spontaneous, turns out it was corporate engineered, an Astroturf operation dressed up as a people's movement. They literally paid protest coordinators to manufacture outrage. It's hard to believe, but guys, here's the real irony, okay? It still failed. Hundreds of millions of dollars down the drain for cardboard props, viral cringe, and empty slogans. Ordinary Democrats started asking the obvious question. If this is so important, why did billionaires have to pay people to care? I mean, you can't buy passion, guys. You cannot fund authenticity. And once the public realized that this entire No Kings movement was a designer protest cooked up in a boardroom, the whole thing imploded faster than any CNN rating segment. The truth is, it was never real. It was all fake. I don't know if anybody else ever says that phrase, but the media saw the writing on the wall and went silent fast. Remember how CNN spent a week hyping up the No Kings Day as like this turning point for democracy? Suddenly, the same network called it poorly executed. MSNBC anchors, they started whispering that it played into Trump's hands, and I'd have to agree, it sure did. I mean, you could really feel the panic behind the smiles. The same pundits who pushed this fantasy are now pretending that they barely mentioned it. Even Politico admitted the optics were a catastrophe. One CNN host actually sighed on air saying, maybe Pelosi's crown moment wasn't the best visual. You don't say, you know? So when your own media wing starts abandoning ship, you already know it's over. The crown stunt, it really became the new Hillary fainting at the 9/11 memorial moment. You know what I mean? The instant symbol of decline. This was supposed to show unity. Instead, it showed complete collapse, not just of a movement, but of media credibility itself. The propaganda machine spun its wheels, and all it produced was more distrust, more laughter, and one of the biggest Democratic face plants in 2025. Now let's talk about the streets, shall we? Because this is where the No Kings movement truly collapsed in plain sight. Independent reporters, they hit the rallies with the cameras and the microphones, and what they uncovered was jaw-dropping. So when they were asked what No Kings actually meant, protesters froze. One said Trump violated the First Amendment. Another one said it's just, you know, about vibes. Someone else stammered that checks and balances aren't working, but really couldn't even name a single example. It was pathetic. Folks, this wasn't political activism. This was political confusion. A movement without a mission, followers without facts, chanting slogans that they didn't even understand. The energy on the ground didn't feel revolutionary at all. It felt awkward. Even the left-wing outlets, they had to admit that the participants couldn't even articulate what they were fighting for. Meanwhile, Trump supporters are flooding social media with clips captioned, "These are the people trying to save democracy." It was devastating because what Americans saw wasn't courage or conviction. It was cluelessness. And it confirmed confirm what millions already believed. The modern left had lost its connection to reality. And right when the Democrats tried to spin the protests as peaceful, the footage started pouring in. Vandalized monuments, torn flags, spray-painted walls, and threatening signs that read, "End the King." Law enforcement confirmed several arrests tied to the protests, including one individual caught on camera throwing objects at a Trump banner outside of City Hall. The hypocrisy was undeniable. The same crowd screaming "No Kings," they were behaving like an angry mob. Fox and independent journalists aired clips side by side, Democrats calling for peace. Meanwhile, chaos is unfolding right behind them. This was visual proof that the movement's moral mask had slipped. Police reports showed damage in at least 5 cities. Businesses boarded up early. Local mayors distanced themselves, calling the protest counterproductive. And Americans watching at home, they asked the obvious question: if this is democracy, then what does anarchy look like? Like, this was the emotional breaking point. Whatever sympathy existed for the No Kings cause evaporated in a single night. The so-called peaceful movement had revealed its true face, and it wasn't pretty. Now, here's where President Trump once again proves why he's playing chess while the Democrats are still arguing over checkers. Within 48 hours of the No Kings collapse, the Trump campaign dropped a brand new ad called "The People Are the Crown." Now, it opened with everyday Americans, construction workers, nurses, veterans, all saying the same line: "We don't need kings, because in America, the people rule." It was brilliant, guys. He took their insult, flipped it, and then turned it into a celebration of working class pride. So while Nancy Pelosi was shredding paper crowns, Trump was reminding Americans that he works for them, that the power of authenticity, that's something you can't fake. You can't script it. This ad went viral instantly. CNN tried to ignore it, but the message resonated everywhere, even among independents who said, "You know what? That's what a president should sound like." Trump took their mockery and turned it into momentum. He didn't just survive their attack, he weaponized it. And that's why, heading into 2026, Democrats are terrified, because their greatest stunt just became his greatest slogan. So what does all of this tell us? Well, it's not just about no kings. It's about a pattern, a cycle of fake outrage and political theater that keeps crumbling under its own weight. You guys remember defund the police? Gone. Build back better? Forgotten. And now, no kings? Dead on arrival. Every time they try to manufacture a movement, it collapses, because it's always built on anger, not conviction. Ordinary Americans are waking up. Even moderate Democrats are saying, enough. We're done being props in somebody else's PR stunt. That's the real story, guys. Not the protests, not the crown, but the awakening. People are seeing through the illusions. They're realizing that behind the slogans, behind the funding, behind the carefully staged photo ops, there's nothing real left that's holding this party together. The Democrats wanted a revolution, and they got a revelation instead. The truth that the American people have moved on. So as Nancy Pelosi's cardboard crown lies in pieces, Trump stands taller than ever. The man they tried to label a king, reminding everyone that in America, the people wear the crown.